Righty ho. So since the last video we've done some work on the mix down. There doesn't appear to be as many tracks anymore, look. This is because I've basically grouped everything together, so I have some more control over various sounds. Obviously there was a lot of mix down work that's gone into the sound design and process of this sort of music, so that has allowed me to build a cohesive idea where the sound doesn't need too much treatment in order to get it to where we want it to be, or where we're aiming for. We're not quite there yet. Sounds alright though. So basically, yeah, like what I've done, separated everything off. So we've got the drums. So, like I say, all the individual layers of the drums have already been treated and processed and mixed and refined. But once we started making the initial song idea, as I described in some of the earlier videos, there were some refinements to the sound that that were taking place as a step-by-step sort of process as we're building the song. Noticed everything was a bit dry. So, I grouped all the drum parts together. And once everything's been grouped together, it's nice to give it some compression. Just to thicken everything up, fatten it up, and put it all back together and make it sound like one instrument rather than, loads of separate elements of a drum kit playing. A little bit further compression here, look. Only just kissing the needle there, really. I have trash afterwards. Trash is just giving it a bit of distortion. I think Trash is a really cool plugin because it's like a multi-band distortion. You can select different distortion types for different elements of your mix. If you're like to apply it to a drum group, obviously your kick, you're not going to want much saturation or distortion on the lower end of the harmonic, so you can actually multi-band this and make sure that you're controlling the distortion on separate parts of the frequency range. Here I just decided to do the whole thing because it's a very light version of distortion. You can hardly hear it. You can hear the difference it makes though, and I guess that's what mixing and mastering is all about. We've shaped the various sounds into sort of where we wanted them to be, but now we're noticing the imperfections in them. We want to try and get it all balanced out and thick and full and sounding cool together. So the drums, after that, some more saturation, slightly heavier. You can really hear that really driving the top end, really filling those drums out, in my opinion. Might be a little bit too much, so I'm going to take the dry wet down. One of the things that I love about Ableton is this dry wet is the ability to rather than use send effects all the time, having this way of grouping all of the channels together and creating like a send within the project like this. If you get like a bus, it's just this is effectively my bus channel, but I can then control like a lot of the effects on there with the dry wet like you would if it was its own separate send to a degree. Doesn't make any sense what I've just said, ignore what I'm saying. Anyway, I like the ability to change the functionality of the dry wet of some of the plugins on the group after I've put them all together. It's a bit much. That's with nothing. Oh, 50-50 sounds fantastic. Then we've got some Pro Q. So what I'm doing there is snare wasn't coming through quite as much as I'd like. I've actually done that slightly wrong. I wanted to boost the harmonic content of the snare, but when that roll comes through, I wanted to control the pitched snare harmonica a little bit and duck it in the frequency band, so it sounded a little bit more realistic when it was playing. And then yeah, after the Pro Qs, just some slight. It's not even touching the limit of it. Right, yeah. But not being boosted. You can tell it's quite a clean drum track in that, because I'm boosting it against the limiter there, and it really didn't distort too much. It's yeah, it sounds nice. So it's basically where I want it to be. So that's the bussing of the drum track. It sounds like this. That's the master. Span's not probably set up the best way to look at those drums either. You need to change some of the settings. But yeah, I could probably just open the span on. Oh, there is no span in the group. I've taken the span off that group while I was doing the mastering, because it keeps ducking audio and really annoying me, and it's using CPU. So having a look at that on the master channel for the moment will do. Then, so we've got the bass group. Drums and bass is obviously the two most important parts to get the sounding thing full. See what we got going on here then. So, without any so that's the bass without any bus processing. So all the basses are grouped together. There we go. See them all? Lovely job. And they've all got some individual treatment and stuff, right? Like we explained in the sound design phase. But it needs some polishing, and we discussed the sidechain in the sound design. So obviously, when the kicks and snares are playing, the frequencies are competing from the basses. The fundamental of the bass is obviously slightly lower register than the kick, but they're pretty close together, and we want them both to be very loud. So it helps if we can duck some of the frequencies from the sub when the kick drum plays, and that gives it that groove and feeling, or it helps to give some sort of groove and feel, rather than it being, you know, too regimented and unnatural. And yeah, like the same goes for the snare. The snare sits about 200 hertz, 250 hertz in drum and bass, the fundamental anyway. And also, you know, that's competing with the mid-range bass frequencies. Sorry, the low mid-range bass frequencies, and also the top part of the you know, like 3K plus. You know, you can't get that sort of taily, cool, snappy snare sound if that 3K information is constantly competing with it. You know, you don't get that airy pash come through. So in order to fix that, we've stuck a sidechain on there. So what the sidechain does is it ducks the volume. You can assign a trigger to a compressor, and then, you know, we can pick the attack and release settings and how much it's compressing. So when the kick drum plays or the snare drum plays, we can then duck the audio information of any sound that we assign that to. So we assign the sidechain to the bass. Rather than using the kick and snare for a sidechain trigger, I have my own sidechain trigger here that I may have showed you in another video. It's just a really short burst of information. It's a sine wave, so it's something that's really strong and reliable to trigger the sidechain. We also have the reason we do that is because obviously the ducking effect can be too much and too obvious. So if the trigger's too long or unreliable, we get an unreliable sidechain. So that's why I've used a separate trigger. It also allows me to you know, move the triggers around, and maybe like I've mentioned previously, it can be helpful in the sound design phase to get like sort of different grooves and things. So yeah, we're liking the separate sidechain. Once we apply this sidechain to the entirety of the sound, we can find sometimes that it is too much. So what I have done is I have then split the bass channel up into different frequency bands. So we've got one going from nothing to 200 hertz, I believe. Yep. Then we've got another band from 200 to 3.74k, and a band that is just 3.74k and above. So obviously the sub and the lower mid bass frequencies compete with the snare, so we're going to compress them, you know, turn the ratio up, sidechain them quite hard, so we turn the ratio up. Ducking is really low, like say. Also, it gives us the ability to solo out. Ooh. Oh, we don't like that. Oh, that'll be a send. So there's some top high-end information coming through that I really didn't like there, but that's a send. So yeah, we split the sound out. So we're applying the sidechain to just two of the frequency bands. The mid-range bass frequencies between 200 and 3.7k aren't really doing anything to get in the way of anything in the song, and they're also quite fundamentally important to like how the sound of the song is. If we don't want that frequency band ducking, because it kind of creates interruptions in the riff and the bass frequency that aren't necessary. We only really want the parts of the bass ducking that are getting in the way of the kick and the snare. So we've assigned the sidechain trigger to the various parts of the frequency ranges that we want to duck, and yeah, we've got the snare operating on kick and the snare operating on the 3.74 hertz band and the 200 hertz band, but everything in between is just playing nice and naturally. I did notice when I was isolating the mid-range frequencies that they were a bit dull, so thought we could do with spicing them up a bit. So there's an amplifier on this. So the amp and chorus here. You know, thickening the sound out with the amp, and then dialing it back a little bit with the chorus. Gives it some nice, you know, neuro-y edge. And then yeah, top layer. So the top layer and the whole layer, the whole sound together. Top layer's okay, but it again needs. I think the whole sound needs dialing back a little bit. So I stuck some chorus on there. You can hear how it really attenuates like the mid-range frequencies and yeah, like softens them up and leaves some space then for us to crush it all again and boost the highs a bit, make them sound a bit cooler. Another amp. Again, this amp's on a really low dry wet. And then I just thought the tops needed a bit more, and perhaps like the sub is loud. So we've got a 3-band EQ. I just wanted to dial back the lows a little bit, boost the mids. So obviously there's some funny harmonics, but that's when it's pitching. And when it looks like the second harmonic might be louder than the fundamental in places there. I am going to have to go back through the individual basses and look at that, like after noticing it there. But yeah, pretty happy with how the bass is sounding there. A little bit of limiting on the end, just to make sure it's all control. Oh goodness me! So yeah, too much limiting there. Lovely job. So then we can take the bass and the drums and play them together. And we can mix them. So there's the drums, and we want the bass to come up. So yeah, this analyzer's not reacting quickly enough at the moment. The reason for that is I left the average time up, which basically, oh, you'll know what that means. I don't want to have to. Oh, I don't know how to explain it. So basically, the analyzer looks at the different harmonics. If you increase the average time up, basically it freezes the harmonics in place. Give you a view over time of the sound rather than like a shorter look at it. And this slope here just changes the way the grass comes out. So that wasn't quite So here, just looking at the drum. group on its own. You can see the fundamental of the kicks here, about -15, which is a bit of a nice pre-mastered level. So we want the bass, you know, fundamental frequency to be lifted up. Need that turning up a bit, so you know, it's competing with the kick frequency. So turn it up. Getting close. So now we'll use our ears. Go, lovely job. Those two groups mixed together. So then I have basically taken all the rest of the sounds that are used in a drop. So that is basically the low end covers, like a lot of the mid range. So the top end here is what we want to be looking at. So all of these sounds represent sounds in the sort of top end of the mix. They've all been individually sort of treated on their various channel strips with some effects, but obviously when we're grouping them all together, we can notice things that are missing that we want to add. It's a very loud group at the moment. So what have we done here? So here we've associated all the sounds, high frequency sounds. After doing that, understanding that, you know, we can apply an auto filter to the group to remove all of like the lower harmonics and frequency information that we don't need across the entire group, rather than having to go into each separate sound and make sure that's knocked out. Once we've done that, we've compressed the group together. I don't know why that attacks up so weird like that. Compressor wasn't really engaged either. And then we've applied some erosion, so some of the sounds, it's not even erosion, it's the white noise that I've used. So these top end sounds, you know, it'd be nice to have them quite stereo and filling out some of the frequency spectrum and width that we haven't fully utilised as yet. Obviously the bass sounds have some stereo frequency in them, and that's part of the coolness of Neurofunk. However, like yeah, there's some space for it in the mix, so we want to fill that out. I've used erosion to do that. A lot of the sounds were like really nicely distorted and reverb, really nicely distorted, and you know, they were all sounding pretty cool. So the next job would be balancing the volume levels. Making sure that everything in there